What will you do if you find an ATM glitch that lets you print free money like unlimited cash, no overdraft, no alarm bells, just pure digital chaos? Well, back in 2011, a 29 years old Australia bartender named Dan discovered exactly that, a secret portal in the bank's system that turned him from broke to baller overnight. We are talking of $1.6 million worth of money, private jets, champagne parties, luxury hotels. Dan lived every broke guy's fantasy until guilt, anxiety, and karma showed up like an uninvited guest. So yeah, grab a drink because this story is wide. Let's talk about the NTM hacker who partied his way to prison. In 2011, in Australia, Dan is just an average bartender, charming, broke, and tired of counting tips to make rent. One Friday night, he hits up a National Australia Bank ATM to move some money around, but the system started acting weird. He tries to transfer funds between his credit and savings accounts, but the ATM flashes an error message. Still, the cash comes out. Dan checks his balance and the money is still there. So he tries it again, same thing, then again, still works. That's when it clicks. If he does it after midnight, when the bank's network is offline, the system doesn't instantly register transactions, meaning he can transfer any money he imagined or he desire from his credit account into his savings and withdraw it. And by the time the system updates in the morning, it's too late. You already got the cash. Dan just found a digital cheat code for real life money. At first, Dan doesn't believe it. He's curious. He puts $200, then $500, then $1,000 just to test it. The bank doesn't call, no alarms, nothing. So he ups the game. He transferred $5,000, $10,000, and $20,000, and still the ATM spits it out like a money printer. By the end of the week, he started realizing, oh my god, I can literally create money. And that is where the story stops being logical and starts getting insane. Dan goes full rockstar mode. He started spending like there is no tomorrow, because in his world, there really isn't a tomorrow. He flies friends to Bali, Hong Kong, and Mumbai, throwing all-night parties at five-star hotels. He buys champagne for everyone, rents private jets, pays for strangers' dinner, even starts paying for people's college tuition and rent, because why not? To everyone around him, Dan's story doesn't make sense. Bartender one day, millionaire the next. He tells people he's some kind of investor, but behind the scenes, he's living in a constant guilt, checking his phone for police calls, his email for warnings, waiting for the moment it all collapses. But for about 4 to 5 months, Dan is untouchable. He spends over $1.6 million and nobody at the bank notices a thing. But here's the thing, when you are living a lie, eventually it eats you alive. Dan starts having anxiety attacks, sleepless nights, and this deep sense that every knock at the door means game over. He tries to stop, but the temptation, the freedom, is addictive. He describes it later like having the world's most dangerous superpower, so he keeps doing it even as he hates himself for it. And when he had finally stopped it, the guilt doesn't go away, instead it gets louder. Months later, Dan decided to do the right thing. He walks into a National Australia Bank branch and tells them everything. I exploited your ATM clinch. I owe you millions. And get this, the bank doesn't even react. They basically say, oh, we'll look into it. And then they send him home. No arrest, no lawsuit, and nothing. So Dan waits days, weeks, months, still nothing. And at this point, he goes insane. Like if you stole millions and confessed and nobody cared, that is almost worse than getting caught. So Dan does something no one expects. He goes public, he calls up the media and tells his story and goes on Australia television and explains exactly how he did it. Yep, he literally podcasted his own crime. Now, the authorities do care. The moment his interview ends, the cops swoop in and boom! Dan got arrested, and in 2015 he was sentenced to 1 year in prison plus order to repay $250, the amount they could actually prove in court. The irony, he spent $1.6 million but only has to pay back a fraction of it because digital paper trials are messy when your crime technically shouldn't have existed in the first place. So what's the takeaway here? Sometimes the real glitch isn't in the system, it's in us. When we get power we are not ready for, it shows who we really are. Dan didn't just hack a bank, he hacked reality for a few months and paid for the price of it. So guys, if you thought this story was wild, do well to like, share and subscribe if you love true crime stories that feels too crazy to be real, because sometimes truth really is stranger than fiction.